I was asked to talk about big data, and I wasn't quite sure how to address that topic, because to me big data is just plain simply a marketing buzzword, nothing else. But I'm going to explain what I do with big data, or what I help my customer do with big data. It's all about finding what's invisible. And I'm going to geek out for a second. At night, I do something totally different, which is astronomy. I take pictures of the stars. And so I'm going to use that as an analogy to what we do with big data. This is a picture of something in the sky. Anyone knows what this is? Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter. That picture is what you could do with an amateur telescope about 10, 15 years ago. You barely see anything. It's a big blur. If you're not into astronomy, you're like, what the hell? There's about 100,000 data points here. Now, 10 years ago, digital camera became affordable, and you could start making movies of these things. And that's what a movie looks like now. I can start seeing a little bit more. I mean, what do you see? Anyone? Yeah, look, there's a little one here. Yeah? And there's this kind of black one stuff here. Now that movie is about a minute, and in terms of data points, that's about 10 billion data points. Now that's big data to me, because when I need to process that image on a computer 5 years ago, it was taking me about a whole night of processing. Nowadays, with the computers that are a bit better, you can process them and you get something like that. And that's exactly what was in the movie before. Now, all I've done is applied the right algorithms, the right techniques to extract the signal out of the noise. And big data to me is all about that. It's very smart people who manage to extract the signal out of the noise. A lot of noise. Our customers have very high velocity data, data that flows very rapidly. Where does this data come from? Well, all of it was kind of started to appear in the last 5, 10 years. Social media is a very good example. Yeah? People tweeting around. I don't know if you heard about that small 55 people company called WhatsApp. Yeah? Exchanging 80 billion or something like that messages a day. They get big data, but they took it to their opportunity advantage, and they managed to get something pretty amazing out of it. So when you talk about big data, usually when I think about it, there's kind of 3 ways of categorizing it. Big as in the volume. If it doesn't fit on a single machine, you could call it big data, because then you need to have new technologies to handle data distributed across multiple servers or storage. The velocity is another one that usually makes the old technology not work. That's what we're dealing with at Acunu. In our world, we're dealing with millions of events coming per second. Now try to see, understand, and make sense of millions of events per second. Impossible, unless you find a way of analyzing it quick enough. And variety is another dimension. You probably heard about structured and unstructured. Think of it as a bank account is structured data. A tweet is partially structured. The message is unstructured, but the person who sent it, the time at which it was sent, that's structured. And there's different tools and technology to analyze the different type of data. One last thing I want to mention about data. We talked about volume, velocity, variety. Very often with data, it depends on the way you look at it. I mean, as we've seen with Jupiter, depending on the algorithm you give, you get a very different picture. This is an example taken out of one of our customers. They're a gaming company. 1 million is the number, DAU is daily average users, so that's the number of players on the game. 1 million is a high number for a gaming company. They're not Candy Crush, but similar. And that's how they measure. Daily average user is a very common metric for gaming companies. And now you can see a dip here, which was a bit odd. And when we looked at that, we were like, hey, we want to see what's happening here. And that company wasn't recorded what was happening inside, or didn't have more resolution. So we used our tool, which record everything in second, and that's what we saw in that day. The dip was because of that, but then you get this massive spike, 5x in traffic, and you can see 2,000 average users per minute. Now that gives a very different picture. And I'm just using these two graphs to illustrate that sometimes you need to think about the resolution you use to look at your data. If you're in a startup, you don't have a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, you should definitely have one. So that's the place where you're going to keep all your contacts, all your rich profiles, all your conversations and communication, record everything. You don't know how it's going to be useful down the road, but it will be. And that's kind of the process I use. I record everything. And I iterate. And I've talked for a very long time, so I'm going to conclude now. Just leave you with another picture of the sky, which I think is very beautiful. And again, if you apply and look at it the right way and apply the right algorithm, you'll reveal something that could be beautiful. It is the same picture. Just looked at it with a slightly different algorithm on it. Thank you.